Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are heading to Kyrgyzstan. Before we head there, I had a 3-hour layover in Istanbul, where I tried FS beer for the first time, which was pretty good, and then we headed off pretty soon after that. After a 6-hour flight, we landed around 5 a.m. I had made a plan not to sleep during the day, so I grabbed myself an espresso shot, which was followed by 4 more free shots from my friend I made, named Eddie, who was a worker at the coffee shop. After this, he gave me one of his cigarettes, and we smoked outside for a bit before I left into Bishkek. Upon hitting the road, I felt extreme culture shock as everything felt extremely different than anywhere else I've been before. After about an hour of driving around, I found the hostel I would be staying at, called People Hostel, and later on was greeted with an unexpected rabbit. That night, I went out for a few hours to explore around Alatu Square. The next day, I was offered Korean food by Eddie, after we then set out for Ala Adsha, which is a major national park 30 minutes south of Bishkek. This here is a traditional yurt that was just left abandoned in the middle of nowhere. We soon arrived at Ala Adsha and was greeted to breathtaking sights of the mountains and pine trees. Later on, me and Eddie ate together, then was invited to a hitchhiker's home to eat dinner, where I had the best soup I've ever had in my life. The next day, I tried one of the traditional drinks of Kyrgyzstan called bozo, which is made from millet, oatmeal, malt, and sea buckthorn juice. Later that day, I was invited to a Kyrgyz wedding by one of the workers. Here's some food I had while I was at the wedding. Here is the wedding ceremony where besh parmak was handed out, which is cut up horse meat with noodles. At my table, I was given the biggest piece of the horse, which is customary for guests to be given. The best way to describe horse meat is that it tastes like roast beef if it was extremely dry and tough to chew. So if I can help it, I'll most definitely not be eating horse again. After was a game of Pictionary, where you had to guess a Soviet-era household item, and to my surprise, this popped up. Apparently it was a makeup or lip balm case. I was told by my worker friend that me, her, and one of her friends would be going to Lake Izikul, so I spent the night at her family's outdoor bed called a tapchan, and we set off for Izikul. Her family had a few farm animals at their home, including these goats. We took a 4-hour Soviet train ride, which led us to the city of Balikchi. Once we arrived, I was greeted by a lady who just so happened to have spoken English, and we all agreed that we would stay at her home with her family for around $10 per night. Together with the host family's son named Manzur, we went to the local restaurant to eat some chicken. Afterward, we went walking around the city, then went to the beach.
Очень много людей смотрят. И что?
The next day was exactly the same as the day previous, except today I got to try lagman for the first time that our wonderful host mom made for us. Lagman is a traditional Central Asian food that is consistent of noodles, meat, and vegetables. To finish the night off, we went to the supermarket and got some shrimp and made some shrimp with tomato and cucumber. This day also just consisted of being at the beach, except everyone decided to go diving, except for me since I can't swim. Later on, our host mom made hanum. Inside was egg and Chinese chives. After eating, I walked with Manzor to the local store to buy him a basketball. While I was there, two guys were watching me suspiciously, but in the end they bought me Kyrgyzstan's most famous ice cream bar, said, "Welcome to my city," then walked away, never to be heard from again. Here is a mini tour of the room that I was staying in. The next day, me and Kudai went bike riding around the city. We then arrived at a war memorial to the brief war that the Soviets had with Afghanistan. And right after, we went to the Balikchi sign. Brief little side note, these were lobster chips and they were extremely good. The next day, we headed off to the city of Chongsari-Oye to meet Aijana's friends. Her friends were very nice and made us all bountiful amounts of manti, and we soon headed to the beach. On this day, we all just hung out at the beach and relaxed. Later that day, we headed back to Balikchi and said our goodbyes to our host family, then headed off back to Bishkek. Side note, this here was a really good crab-flavored cracker. The next day, I got myself a really good haircut, and me and a few people from the hostel went onto a nightclub to celebrate one of our hostel mates getting her visa approved to study in South Korea. After the nightclub, we went for karaoke, so enjoy our horrible singing.
Take that money, watch it burn. Sing it with the less thunder. Take that money, watch it burn. Sing it with the less thunder. Take that money, watch it burn. Sing in the river, watch thunder.
The entirety of the 5th was spent recuperating from that night out. During this trip, I unfortunately succumbed to traveler's sickness, so I was given a digestive enzyme medicine that within a few days fixed all of my problems. On this day, I met new travelers that had arrived at the hostel, and we all went out to eat together at Namat, which is a traditional Central Asian restaurant. Something crazy is that this entire 2-liter bottle of beer only costed me around $1. We all decided to go early the next day and hike around Ala Archa. Here I drank some of the river water, which was pristine, extremely cold water. After a 3.5-hour hike, we then arrived at our intended destination, which is the Ala Archa waterfall, that had gorgeous views at the valley. After many photo ops, we then headed back down the valley and back to the hostel. On this day, I went to Panfilov Park, an amusement park in the middle of the city, and rode the Ferris wheel. Later, a Russian photographer who was staying at the hostel offered to take photos of me, and so here's a few of the photos that were taken. We then went to Pishpek, which is a traditional Kyrgyz restaurant, and ate Tashkent plov, and my friend ate dimlama. On my last day in Kyrgyzstan, I said goodbye to all the friends that I made and headed off to Kazakhstan. I hope you all enjoyed the video and got to see how beautiful Kyrgyzstan really is. Would highly recommend visiting at least once in your life. Now here's some extra photos.